Okay, hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a very special one-of-a-kind piece to review today, and it is here courtesy of Watches by Nick. It is, of course, the now infamous traveling watch. So a little bit about the brand. So Watches by Nick is one of the finer modification houses that you'll find out there. Normally he modifies Seiko-based watches, but he actually is working towards coming out with his first original model, the Orion. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. Definitely top-notch work. So let's go ahead and get into the design language a bit of this particular watch. So essentially, this watch is a tribute to a classic field watch. Now, some key characteristics and design language for a a classic field watch would be something that is kind of that modest vintage size, as well as the full numerals, where you're going to want to have the 12-hour scale as well as the 24-hour scale, and you normally see these type of watches with either a black or a cream dial. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Okay, so this particular model is has been dubbed the traveling watch because this watch actually has traveled quite a bit from a lot, and as it goes through its travels, Nick actually has made some upgrades. So the last time you may have seen this piece, it may not have had every upgrade that it does at this particular point. So I'll make sure to cover the specs. So the case size is 38 millimeters in diameter with a 13 millimeter height, and that's including that the crystal there. So the case is brushed and polished, and of course it does have that very nice fine hand engraving on there. So really nice piece. The crystal is a sapphire, and it's domed, as you can see, with an inner AR coating. And it's not a double dome, so underneath, I believe it's flat, which is what gives it that distortion there, as you can see, playing with the light. Some people aren't huge fans of distortion. Same thing with AR coating. It's not for everyone. I personally like AR coating, and a good little bit of distortion, I think, with the right kind of watch is definitely a cool feature. I think it does add some visual interest to an otherwise very stark utilitarian dial. So the bezel, as you can see, is also engraved, but it's actually underneath that engraving is a very nice high polished finish. And then if we move over to the crown, you'll see that it's just pretty standard affair, polished, unsigned, but I think that really it doesn't really need to be signed. I think it actually suits the character of the watch and doesn't make it too over the top with too many ornate details. I really think the design choices were really clean and clear here. So one of the things that's been upgraded semi-recently is the movement. It's actually using the Seiko Instruments NH36A, which is essentially just an unbranded 4R36 movement from Seiko. It's hacking and hand windable and has a 3 hertz tick to it. So it'll beat 6 times per second. Very nice. I have the same movement in a lot of other watches. Of course, a lot of my Seiko mods, that's kind of the go-to movement for these. All right, so as you can see, there's a very nice display case back, so you do get a look at this really, pretty standardly finished movement, but I think it's really nice to have a display back because it just lets you see a little bit of that life inside of your watch, and I think it makes you feel a little bit more connected to it, and it's not just, you know, a timepiece. You know, there's just a little bit more to it than that, which I like. So looking at the dial, you know, you can see, of course, it is that classic Type 2 style dial, and it has painted hands, and, you know, the lume is actually pretty nice, and we'll definitely get to a lume shot here in a second. Let me see, what else can we take a look at? So the lugs are 20 millimeters, which is great. I think fits the proportions nicely. As you can see, Nick has actually chosen to put it on this really nice leather alligator embossed strap, and with a nice little steel deployment. So let's go ahead and get a lume shot for you, and then we'll move into some on the wrist. Okay, here we go. Let me charge it up just to make sure that get a nice charge out of here. All right, so as you can see, the lume is actually really nice. There is a little bit of distortion from the crystal, so you might be missing out on a little bit of the dial. Let me actually try to tilt it up a bit, and hopefully the camera will still be able to track. So as you can see, not only are the numerals lumed, but as well as the hour little triangles that go outside. So I think that's a really nice touch. And you know, the watch looks really cool in the dark as well in the light, so can't really argue with that. So let's go ahead and get it on wrist and get some impressions from there. Okay. All right, well, you know what? Instead of doing this off camera, let's go ahead and demo putting on a deployment. So for those viewers who've never done this, it actually opens here. You pick the right hole that you want, and so for me, I believe it's the 4th hole. Click it down. So now you click it once, you tuck the tongue there, click it the second time, and there you have it. Very nice. So as you can see on the wrist, really nice profile, hugs the wrist well. You know, Seiko's known for its ergonomics, so it's no big surprise that this watch is really well fitting. And I normally don't wear 38s, but I think that the watch has that wrist presence to where I wouldn't feel uncomfortable about the watch appearing small. Of course, on camera, it's going to appear a little bit larger, especially on a quote-unquote wristy, you know, on a wrist shot, it's going to look a little bit bigger. Let me see how close I can get it so you guys can actually see some of these great engraving details there. All hand done, you know, amazing, really top-notch work from Nick. So it's really cool. So let's go ahead and get a little resting wrist shot there, so you can kind of get a little bit of an idea of how this watch would look on person. Okay, so thoughts on wrist. You know, of course, it wears really nicely. The modest size is pretty refreshing, actually. You know, but I think those details really just pop. So, you know, again, there isn't a lot of nice wrist presence there, which I'm really enjoying. Comparable model as posted on, you know, the Watches by Nick website would probably be the Field S2. The only differences, you know, would be that it does have, that particular model has a 7S26 movement, of course, which is the standard Seiko movement that comes in the watch, that is not hand winding or hackable. And then it actually has a date on it. This one forgoes the date, I think, for kind of a cleaner look. And then the hands are polished cathedral hands, and that particular model comes in at a retail of $675. So of course, at this higher spec, you know, I would expect a slight markup if you were to try to order a watch that was going to match this particular setup from directly from Watches by Nick. So, I mean, you know, all in all, I'd say the bottom line is this is an extremely cool watch. You know, nice little detail is my wife immediately complimented me on this watch once she saw it on my wrist. So that rarely happens around here, especially since I have so many watches. Not just because I have so many, my wife's used to seeing them, is, you know, she's not normally crazy about seeing me wearing a new wristwatch. So I thought that was actually pretty cool that, you know, she saw it and kind of asked about it and thought that it looked really great. So, you know, Nick Harris, amazing job on this piece. You know, really makes me want to send in some stuff for some custom engravings, but you know, he's actually pretty busy at the moment getting that you know, all the details together for the Orion. So you know, it's not something that is probably at the top of his list to get done, to do a bunch of custom jobs right now, but you know, this definitely, I'd say, is a great calling card for the brand to say, hey, look, you know, this is what we're capable of. You know, here's our design aesthetic, and you know, and here's a little exercise of you know, our skill set at Watches by Nick. So great piece, definitely makes a statement, and I can definitely see what all the fuss is about. So awesome. We'll go ahead and get it. Little resting wristy here. And all right, guys, well, thanks for watching. If you have not already, please subscribe, and don't forget to hit like on the video. Thanks. Bye.